Well, they say a good man nowadays is hard to find, but proving them wrong once again is Johnny Torch, here with another Torch News Roundup, number 77 this week. We're on our 49th live edition of the Johnny Torch broadcast. Thank you for joining us once again, coming to you live from stately Torch Tower. We're doing it live on tape today. This is not an actual live broadcast. It easy on myself for a change and not do it live, but for all intents and purposes it's live because there's no editing involved because I'm too lazy to edit. But here we are with a lot of stories, good stories, bad stories, boring stories, interesting stories. Eh, let's see how it goes from there. Let's see. First up, we're going to hold off our Super Bowl prediction, our Johnny's NFL football picks, or should I say pick of the week until our Saturday broadcast when we do our This Week in Comic Book Television, which tune in for that because nobody ever does. So let me know that you're out there. Let me know that you're watching. Let me know that you're interested in this week in comic book television. A lot of stuff, and I haven't even caught up with any of it yet. I haven't watched anything yet. Supergirl, Flash, and Black Lightning have already aired, and I have yet to see any of them. But I spent last night watching Genesis Live in Rome to commemorate the great one himself, Phil Collins' birthday yesterday. Happy 67th birthday, Phil Collins. And he's still out there on the road touring with his son Nicholas playing drums. Unfortunately, Phil is unable to perform the drums any longer, but it's all in the family. That's all that matters. And hopefully, he'll make a tour of the States. I'm ashamed to admit I've never seen Phil live, too, since Testify came out. And here we are, 2018. Ugh. And then, of course, the Motown covers album came out in 2010. So that's still quite a long ways from us having any recorded material from the man himself. So, all right, let us move on here now. We'll take a look at our poll of the week question. This is what we usually do first and foremost. Now, we got a two-part question here. Originally, I did one for the guys. We got one for the gals, too, so don't worry about that. But first off, for the guys, suppose you lived in Riverdale, which of the classic Archie Comics hotties would you want to date the most? We have of the nominees Betty, Veronica, of course, Betty Veronica, Cheryl Blossom, and Josie from Josie and the Pussycats. Uh, 3 days left to vote, so you still got plenty of time, but we got 50 votes so far. In last place, we have Josie from Josie and the Pussycats with 10% of the vote. In third percent, in third place with 12%, Cheryl Blossom. And at this point right now, it started off strong for Veronica. Betty came on, to catch up and tie. But now Betty has fallen into second place with 36% of the vote, while Veronica Lodge is still number one in the hearts of Archie fans with 42% of the vote. So, and that of course is also based on the actresses portraying them. At least that's how I marketed it, so that I'd get a big response. Okay, so with 51 votes, we've got the other half of the poll. Suppose you lived in Riverdale. Which of these Archie comic hunks would you like to date the most? In last place, we have Reggie Mantle with 7% of the vote. In third place, Kevin Keller with 18%. In second place, Archie Andrews himself with 22% of the vote. And in first place, unbelievably, Jughead Jones with 53% of the vote. Over half the vote belongs to Jughead. And I'm sure all this is due to Cole Sprouse. Because if you went by the comic book version of Jughead, I would never believe that Jughead Jones would be the heartthrob of millions. But like I said, Cole Sprouse gets the credit on that one. All right, so you still got a couple days left to vote on that if you are indeed interested. As a matter of fact, Riverdale is just finishing up right now. I still haven't caught up on that show since the first episode of the season, so I don't know when I'm going to get to that. But you still have plenty of time to vote in the poll. Just check the link in the description below for my Twitter page, and you will find it hopefully somewhere there. All right, with that business out of the way, let's take a look at some more news stories here now as we do Torch News Roundup number 77 for your approval, and we thank you. Okay, first up, this is going to be fun trying to get these images up. If you're a longtime listener of the show, you'll know this is always a chore, but let's see. All right, first off, we have a new Spielberg's Indiana Jones 5, the as yet untitled fifth episode of the Indiana Jones saga, reuniting Steven Spielberg with Harrison Ford. Of course, George Lucas is going to sit this one out. He's officially retired, and so he will not be involved. We have word, of course, that Shia LaBeouf is also not taking part in this one, even though it looked like the mantle was to be passed to him, so to speak. And the news story is we have confirmation that Steven Spielberg will be shooting Indiana Jones 5 in 2019 for a 2020 release. So there was some speculation as to whether this film would take a backseat to the West Side Story reboot or remake that Steven Spielberg is going to be filming. But obviously, Harrison Ford, time and tide wait for no one. I mean, we got to get on this Indiana Jones movie, don't we? I mean, Harrison Ford looks good for his age, but the man needs to get this movie made. So obviously, this was a priority for Spielberg, and they will begin shooting it next year. I'm pretty sure the script is done at this point. They said that a version of it was done last year that was mostly pleasing to Spielberg and Ford, but we will have to see uh, if any more information comes out about it. From then, we have no idea of casting. I also remember hearing through the grapevine that Karen Allen is interested in returning to the role of Marion Ravenwood for the third time in the series. Of course, she would have to, I would imagine, be in this movie, seeing as how she's now married to Indy from the end of, spoiler alert, from the end of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. She's now Mrs. Jones. Me and Mrs. Jones. All right, I'll spare you the singing. But yeah, no information yet as to whether Karen Allen has been officially cast, but I think it's pretty obvious. It's pretty likely, let's put it that way. All right, we'll move on now to our next story. And this one is probably going to lead to a vicious rant. Now, there was some news circulate. They were looking for an actress to portray Lois Lane, and a lot of news sites ran with it, thinking we were going to get Lois Lane on Supergirl, because of course we had Lucy Lane, and we've had Superman, we've had Clark, we've had Jimmy Olsen, in a manner of speaking. But we still haven't seen Lois Lane on Supergirl yet, and I thought that was a good idea to, give Lois a, you know, uh, interesting part in the show. So, unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to put Lois on Supergirl. What they're going to do is, this is hard to believe, they're going to have yet another prequel series for the Man of Steel. As if Smallville wasn't enough, Krypton, the upcoming Sci-Fi Channel show, wasn't enough. For DC, having Gotham, the teenage years of Bruce Wayne was not enough. Now we have Metropolis, which is the prequel show showing the life and times of Lois Lane and Lex Luthor before the Man of Steel showed up in the great city of Metropolis. It's another one of those age-old questions that we keep facing, which is, do we really need a prequel series? I mean, really, in this day and age, what good does the prequel series do? I mean, it was kind of understandable back in the day when it was, oh, nobody's taking the superhero genre seriously, and we don't have the special effects to really put, you know, big budget villains on screen. And, that was one thing, but we've got Supergirl, we've got The Flash, We've got Black Light. We can do anything pretty much now on television. Why do we need to keep going backwards to prequel series where inevitably they show all the villains, they show all the characters before the hero arrives? Why is that of interest to anybody? Do you really care about, Superman's grandfather? Do you really care about all of Batman's villains before Batman was even old enough to shave? I mean, it don't make any sense to me personally, but I just in this day and age, it's like, that is like so 2002. Come on, people, can I hear an amen? Yeah, all right. Let's take a look at the press release here. I'll pull it up here. So this show is going to be expected to premiere in 2019 and will be released exclusively on DC's upcoming digital service. So this is another show that apparently is not going to be widely available. It's going to probably be on the same streaming site as Titans, the upcoming Titans show, which actually does look pretty good in comparison with this concept of a Superman-less Superman show. Although on the other hand, I always liked the character of Lois Lane. I always said that Lois Lane is integral to any Superman project. Any Superman show needs Lois Lane. That's the peanut butter and jelly of the comic book world. But I just don't want to have to sit through another build-up series where they keep building up. They're not showing him, and then eventually, oh, the last episode, maybe we'll catch a glimpse of him. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. I don't need any more build-up shows. You know what I mean? And then signing off whenever the hero finally shows up. I don't need that. All right. So getting back to the press release. According to the press release, let's see. It says Metropolis will follow Lois Lane and Lex Luthor as they investigate the world of fringe science and expose the city's dark and bizarre secrets. So, like I said, it could be fun seeing, but why not have Superman involved? You know what I mean? It could be fun seeing, the whole point of Lois is to see her get in trouble. That's the fun part of the character of Lois Lane. She's fearless. She's a fearless reporter, and she's not afraid to get into trouble and, put her life on the line. And that's where Superman comes in. He's supposed to rescue her. But see, in this SJW feminist age, you can't have Superman coming to Lois Lane's rescue anymore. That's why we need to have a Lois Lane show without Superman. Uh, if that's what they're trying to do, then yeah, I'm calling crap. It's gonna be crap. Um, Lex Luthor as a scientist is something I always liked that I don't think we see enough of. To me, Luthor is always the scientist first, the mad scientist. He's, mad being, a word not meaning so much that he lost his senses, but that he's doing science that's far beyond what normal people would attempt, what sane people would attempt. But Luthor is always portrayed as a businessman, and I never liked that portrayal. That's the John Byrne, revamp they did in the '80s. I never liked it. Luthor should be the mad scientist, should be the savvy businessman, but not a mogul sort of like Kingpin, for instance. Something like that is just I don't approve, so to speak. All right, so continuing on here now. It promises to show us a wondrous and awe-inspiring city of tomorrow, where the emergence of Superman and establish much of the Man of Steel's world leading up to his arrival. So, I don't know, we're gonna see some cool stuff in Metropolis, I guess that means? I don't know. The World's Fair? I don't know. I don't know really what this wondrous stuff and awe-inspiring stuff they're gonna show is, but, um, I don't know. With criticism about, it being, similar to Gotham, this is what they had to say. While the basic setup may be similar, fans know that there's a world of difference between the cities of Metropolis and Gotham, suggesting that Metropolis will likely have a considerably different tone than Gotham. Superman's villains are also more powerful, cosmic and rooted in science fiction than Batman's, so one can only imagine there will be much less emphasis on street level gangsters and crime families in this forward thinking city. So there it is right there. Superman's villains are also more powerful, cosmic, and rooted in science. They're going to do all the Superman villains. It's going to be Gotham all over again in that respect. It's going to be all super villains. Lois Lane is going to be like the, you know, Jim Gordon of the show, where he's probably the least interesting character of the show. No fault of um, the actors, of course. But and then Luthor will probably be the Penguin of the show, where you just follow him around and try to see his progress and this and that. While some of the more peripheral villains, like I don't know, Parasite and I don't know, Prankster maybe. I don't know. They'll probably get the focus somewhat, while the backdrop is for more Luthor shenanigans and Lois shenanigans. Metropolis begins production later in 2018. Are you really interested in this show? Mm, Let me know if you are, because I'm curious to find out who really wants another prequel series, another superhero prequel series. I mean, haven't we moved beyond that at this point? Can't we just get to, you know, the hero's adventure without having to do, you know, 6 years of build up and then the show's over? I don't know. Makes no sense to me. It's a terrible idea, I think, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. All right, so okay. Well, next up we have here the Captain Marvel photos that have surfaced. Captain Marvel, of course, is shooting. Um, no, it hasn't started shooting yet. Captain Marvel. These images, I believe, are of Captain Marvel on the set of the new Avengers film, the Avengers untitled sequel to Infinity War. I don't believe these are from Infinity War. I think that's been wrapped for quite a while now. But so we got our first look at the costume here. Brie Larson, of course, in the Captain Marvel costume. The costume looks very accurate to the design of, the modern looking Captain Marvel costume. I still would have preferred the Ms. Marvel costume, but they would never do that. So as you can see here, they kind of made it as generic as possible, as I always tell you that they do in these movies. It's a one-piece catsuit that reveals nothing and is basically unflattering to the figure. So that pretty much is covered, both literally and figuratively. Uh, Captain Marvel looking a little dour here. I don't know. That's probably in between takes. I don't know if that's really reflective of what she's playing here. So we'll take a look at these photos here because a lot of them surfaced. All right, this is, let's see. It'll take a few minutes here. Let's see. This is a image of Captain Marvel obviously looking for her way to Sesame Street. I don't know. Or maybe she's looking in the wand ads. New captain wanted on Avengers team. Inquire Thor. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what this scene entails. We can get some guesses from this. Apparently, in the rumor mill, at least, is she's going to be coming from the '90s to modern day. So this is possibly why she's looking a bit befuddled at things here. We have a guy here proposing to Captain Marvel. Apparently, no, this is supposed to be an action scene, I think, where this guy is causing trouble or something for her. I don't know, but that's pretty interesting. Let's see. All right, we got to talk about the colors here because the color scheme is what's thrown many a fan into a tizzy online. And I agree. The first thing I thought was, why do we have Captain Marvel in green? And some people are getting a little testy with fans like myself that were throwing this question around quite a bit. And apparently, this is a proto costume that she had in the comics at some point. It's a Kree proto costume, I guess. Before she gets the red and blue one, this is a green and blue one. She still has the star on her chest, the Kree symbol, I believe that is. And I don't know, maybe this has something to do with um, the original Marvel, and I don't know. I have no idea. As I said on Twitter, I said, a lot of us haven't read all of Captain Marvel's 41-year history. So, I'm willing to go with it. It looks like it's fine. In theory, it's a fine detailed costume, just a different color. It's just the wrong color. But apart from that, it looks fine. And let's see, we got a few more images here. Let's see. This is the costume from the back. And it looks like Captain Marvel could use a little more junk in the trunk, if I could be frank. A little more, a little loose in the caboose, let's say. A little more, maybe donuts in the in the lunch tray when she comes out of lunch might help the situation. But yeah, the costume looks pretty good. And her hair, I am so thankful that we have confirmation now that her hair is not going to have that butch cut that she has in the comics. That I don't know, that Katy Perry look that I guess Katy Perry has now. Here's Captain Marvel smiling. She's happy. That's so nice. And yeah, she looks better there in that photo. But yeah, let me know what you think about Captain Marvel's new costume for. I suppose this is for Infinity War, and they're going to use a different costume for Captain Marvel's solo film. Either that, or maybe this leads into the Infinity War Part Two, and she gets the new costume at some point in that Part Two. I don't know, but yeah, she looks pretty good. I'm not too concerned. There was also some photos that surfaced of her in the Carol Danvers guys. I don't believe these are actually photos of her in any filming of the movie. This is her taking a course in the U.S. Air Force, because of course Carol Danvers is a Air Force fighter pilot, and it's just her goofing around, I guess, as she's getting a crash course in this stuff for when they actually do the movie. They had a lot of these photos of her, like, in the cockpit and stuff. I couldn't find them all because I waited too long. This is kind of old news, but you get to see her suiting up, getting the parachute ready. She gotta learn how to do these things. She's gonna be Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers, fighter pilot. Can't take that stuff for granted. You gotta know. You gotta look like you know anyway. Okay, let's see. I got a few more, so let's just go through them. Might as well. Of course, my thing is not showing up here. Let's wait a second. Here we go. All right. There we go. Looks a little bit better there in that picture. Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. And all right. So that is Brie Larson as Carol Danvers slash Captain Marvel. All right. I don't know who these Air Force guys are, but they're lucky. hanging with Brie Larson. I don't know. I don't know her personally. Uh, there was some kind of story. Remember a couple of months ago at this point where I don't know, some airport security guy or something hit on her, and she took it like it was this this terrible harassment or whatever that she had to endure. So she seems to be a little bit of a diva, I guess. But you know, when you're young and hot and in Hollywood, you can get away with that, I guess. All right, so that is our Captain Marvel coverage. Now let's take a look at the main course here, the main story we've got, which is the new Ant Man and the Wasp trailer. And I really liked this. I had a lot of fun watching this trailer, and I thought it was great. I love this movie, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. That's the most important thing. They didn't waste any time. They showed us that Ant Man is going to be Giant Man yet again in this film. That is, one of the suit's other functions that we learned in Civil War. Of course, Civil War, they didn't shy away from the Giant Man thing. That they conceivably should have saved it for, uh, Ant Man the Wasp for his own movie, but no, they already, shot that one off and didn't save it for the 4th of July. All right, so let's take a look here. What else we've got? Uh, so yeah, the trailer opens with some shots of the Civil War skirmish in the airport, and we get to see the lovely Evangeline Lilly. She looks great as the Wasp, as Hope Van Dyne. I always want to call her Janet, but of course Janet is going to be played by Michelle Pfeiffer in this film. And uh, uh, again, I was going to call him Hank. No, what's his name? Scott. Scott, you know, says, if I would have told you that Cap needed help, would you have come? And it's really interesting because, you know, I guess she was already the Wasp at that point, because we know at the end of the movie Hank gives her the costume, but I don't know if that means that she was already ready to go. You know what I mean? I thought this might be more of an origin story for her, but it looks like she's already been kind of, well, I was going to say trained, but seeing as how she pretty much trained Scott in the first movie, I don't think she really needs training. All she had to do was put the costume on and pretty much, uh, get used to the flying and whatever else is incumbent on the costume. Okay. There was a lot of interesting things. We saw a glimpse of Lawrence Fishburne as Goliath. I don't have an image of that there, but I just thought I'd mention that before I forget. It's going to be interesting to see because I like to see this old. I feel bad saying old, but the old school heroes coming to aid the younger heroes here. We've got Hank Pym coming back, of course. Excuse me. Yeah, Michael Douglas coming back as Hank Pym, and Michelle Pfeiffer and Lawrence Fishburne. Of course, Michelle Pfeiffer was the original Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, and Lawrence Fishburne is playing Goliath. I don't remember what's his name. What's his character's name? Was it Bill Preston or something like that? I can't remember right now. But anyhow, it'll be interesting to see if he gets suited up at some point to be Goliath. I don't know. His waistline is kind of Goliath. I don't know if I'm going to see him suiting up. But we get a lot of shots of Black Goliath. Yeah, that he was either Black Goliath or Goliath. I think they're just going to go with Goliath because, not to be confused with the other characters, there's so many of them named Black something or other. But a lot of great action scenes here with the Wasp. They really showcased her in this. That was a lot of fun to see. Um, a lot of great action scenes. Another one I didn't get a screenshot of because I had a hard time finding screenshots. That's what happens when the video comes out, like, and you try to do a video the next day when the trailer comes out and you try to do a video the next day. Um, Michael Pena as Luis. We get a brief look at him. He's going to be in the film. He was great in the first one. Can't wait to see him. Hopefully have some choice comedy in this one as well. So we get Scott is under house arrest here. It looks like, which always makes things difficult when you're a superhero, because he helped Captain America. The question is, of course, Captain America broke them out of prison, I believe, at the end of Civil War. So, what is the situation here? Did he just turn himself in? Is this a sort of an epilogue to what happens after Infinity War? That maybe he's off the hook now because he did something heroic in Infinity War. Uh, we don't know. We have to see Infinity War first because that comes out first, and I imagine they're going to do these in order. And we also hear that uh, Hope and her dad had to go on the run, apparently, because they were wanted by the FBI. We see them being surrounded by the FBI. And so I like that relationship between them. That's one of the things I like about the Ant Man franchise. It's a very family oriented story. the first movie was great because it was basically about fathers and daughters. And we always get a lot of stories about fathers and sons and stuff, but I thought it was interesting to have a father and daughter storyline. And you have, you know, Scott is, for all intents, the son that Hank never had. That's another thing that I liked about it too, is seeing him sort of passing the mantle onto someone that he trusted in taking his life's work when he really wouldn't trust it to anyone else. And they had some funny lines here too, between the two of them, where he says, "You didn't have the technology to give me wings and a blaster, do you?" He goes, "No, I had it." Their relationship was so great in the first movie, and you could tell they really carried it over here. And I'd like to see if they have some action scenes with Michael Douglas, because I think he asked for it. He wanted an action scene, I think they said, for the sequel. So we'll see what happens here. Because the danger is you don't want to make him too action oriented, otherwise they'll say, well, why didn't he just keep the suit? But you have to eventually pass the suit on to the next generation. Okay, there of course is Cassie coming back into the story. I'm glad she doesn't look too much older than the last movie, because last movie she was like 5, and I said, oh, like 4 years, 5 years go by, and she's gonna be like a preteen, and you're not even gonna recognize her. But she's still, she went from being like 5 years old to 7, so there's not much of a difference there, or 8 maybe. So yeah, you still get that kind of cute kid appeal to Cassie. Apparently her mother is still in it, although I really could do without the boyfriend. I don't really need to see any more of him. He was enough in the first movie. All right, let's see what else. We're taking this step by step here. We're gonna show the whole trailer in, probably not in order, but in sequence. Okay, this was funny too. The shrinking down of the building, and Hank just carts it away. The whole building. That was pretty funny. And apparently they're taking this on the road, and there's a great action scene where you don't get to see too many of these great motorcycle action scenes, but it looks like there's going to be motorcycles chasing down the van, and it looks like a lot of excitement to be had there with that action scene with Janet behind the wheel, or Hope behind the wheel. See, I caught myself again saying Janet. To me, Wasp is always going to be Janet, and Hank is going to be the Ant Man. But all right, let's take a look at this first. Now, this is our villain of the piece, the Ghost. Now, the Ghost was originally a man, of course, and the Marvel likes to play fast and loose with the characters and stuff, sort of like the way they took Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie, and they still had the original Swiss Miss Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok, if you watch it, but Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie is a different Valkyrie, and so it's like, okay, I get it. You're not using the same Valkyrie, and we're not using the same Ghost, but what are you gonna do? Here we are. That's like the second um the second season of Agent Carter. They used a version of Madame Mask that really had nothing to do with the original Madame Mask. That's what I mean. It's like they're doing like different versions so that they could someday come back and say, well, we didn't really use the original. We probably could if we wanted to. But in this case, I think it's just one of those things where they want to have another female character, and it's like, well, we got to make it one of the villains because we can't fill a quote or any other way. But it looks like an interesting character. I like the costume a lot. I'm really happy that they're going with a costume for this character, because I was afraid it was just going to be just sort of a cyber terrorist type thing or whatever. But she's got the full costume there of the Ghost, and that looks really cool. Uh, her ability is to do something with technology, and I don't really know too much about her or what the original character used to be in their powers, but they give us a brief glimpse here where it looks like she's moving through time and space in a strange way. I'm guessing that's her. Of course, we really don't have the confirmation on that, but excuse me. I think what probably will happen here is that she's gonna have something to do with um the miniverse, or whatever it's called, the quantum realm, I guess, where they're gonna try to find um Janet Van Dyne. So that's pretty interesting. I like to see what they're going to do with that there. Let's see. We've got a couple more pictures. Let's take a look. A few more here. This is an interesting shot. The way they ended it, I thought this was pretty cool. Where we had the Pez dispenser, the Hello Kitty Pez dispenser, turned into a weapon of destruction, taking out one of these bikers. Um, the Wasp firing this Pez dispenser at him. Very cool. Looks great. And I am just excited as heck to see this movie. There's a reason why I made this movie my second most anticipated movie, and y'all are sleeping on this one. You're going to be very surprised come summer. I'm going to tell you why. This is going to be one of the greatest movies of the year. I think it would probably be the best movie of the year if it wasn't for the fact that we have Infinity War, which looks to blow everybody away with, every superhero under the sun. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good movie, of course. I mean, we had Avengers Age of Ultron, which I thought was underwhelming, and they could do the same thing here with Infinity War. It's the same thing that I've been feeling with Black Panther. I mean, you get the feeling that the hype train is built so much for these movies that they're not really possibly going to reach the level of greatness that they're saying or that we're hoping that it's going to be. In the case of Black Panther, the reviews are out, and a lot of reviews are really, really positive, which I'm happy to hear. But when you're putting the film so much on a pedestal, it gets difficult for it to live up to expectations, and so that's why I always try to have modified expectations going in. I mean, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out like the Last Jedi, where even modified expectations kind of lets you down still, and even Age of Ultron kind of is in the same camp of letting me down in that respect. But there hasn't been a bad MCU movie, to be totally honest. There hasn't been a really bad one, a truly bad one on the level of, The Amazing Spider-Man, Man of Steel, Hulk. Those were all really bad movies that I thought were just, I'd stop short of saying terrible, but, I could watch all of them except Hulk. Hulk, I think, is probably the worst superhero property, you know, in my interview at Mice Expo, I said The Spirit is the all-time worst superhero movie, and that still goes. I think that's the worst movie of all time. But for the Marvel and DC movies, I can't think of the proper term. For the mainstream movies, that's right. For the mainstream heroes, I would say definitely Hulk is the worst. Anyhow, we're getting off the beaten path there, but yeah, this is going to be great. Let me know what you think of this trailer. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think? Doesn't the Wasp look great? She looks great, and I can't wait to see her in action. And um, Paul Rudd is also great in that role as Scott Lang. Can't wait to see this movie. And like I said, I think it's going to be the second best movie of the year. Aquaman probably third, because I think they built up Aquaman really well in Justice League, and I think Jason Momoa is really charismatic, you know, that he's going to be able to carry a film by himself. Infinity War is tough to top, uh, but Ant Man the Wasp has the potential to be amazing, and the trailer was amazing, and I think the film will be amazing. So 5 stars for that Ant Man and the Wasp trailer. We don't have too much longer to wait for the Black Panther. We've got what, a couple of weeks now, just like 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, coming up fast, and it seems like it's taking forever to get here, but it's really exciting, to know that it's right around the corner. We also have rumors. I didn't like slot out a segment for this or put up the put up any images, but apparently they are going to uh put some footage out, so to speak. I don't know if it would be considered a trailer, but some footage for Solo, a Han Solo movie, or is that what it's called? Solo, a Star Wars story. That is going to be some footage released for that during the Super Bowl. So I'm sure, you know, keep your laptops and cell phones handy and just get ready to see that Solo footage, because I'm sure they'll just give us a snippet of it. And the movie will be out in a matter of months now. It's May 25th, I believe, the same date that Star Wars and Return of the Jedi came out, so that is, kind of disconcerting. That I don't know if it's going to sully that day, but I don't know. I hope that all goes well for that movie. To be honest with you, because I liked Rogue One. I didn't hate Rogue One, and The Force Awakens was okay had it been built on with a better movie than The Last Jedi. But so what I'm saying is the track record of Disney so far with Lucasfilm, but hopefully we'll be wowed by, well, whatever that you know footage we see during the Super Bowl. Hopefully it's enough to give us a real taste of it, and rather than showing us maybe two images and then calling it a day. Um, I have faith in Ron Howard. I mean, we have that on our side. We have Ron Howard, who's a competent director. We have Lawrence Kasdan and I believe his son working on the screenplay. And the other ones that wrote the screenplay for The Force Awakens, and they did a pretty good job of getting Han Solo's character down. So I don't think that's a major concern. I think they can probably characterize him right. I suppose the actor you have to worry about. A lot of people saying Alden Ehrenreich is been criticized for not being very good or so on. But anyway, we'll see. We don't have too much longer to wait, but we'll see. All right, we have viewer questions time, or I should say viewer comments. Mostly they're comments, but we finally got some comments that we can take a look at here where I get to interact with you, the listener. So let's take a look. Of course, the first one we have here is my very popular George Lucas defense video. I got a couple of comments here, very nice comments from Remote Prophecy Productions. I haven't checked out his channel, but check out his channel, obviously. Gave me 3 comments. The first saying, the last great Star Wars that we got was Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Agreed. Number 2, The Last Jedi is an abomination. Agreed. The thing about The Last Jedi, we go over this so many times, or I've been going over it on Twitter. The problem is you live or die with Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. And when you can't even satisfy Mark Hamill, who is as broad-minded an actor as I'm sure you'll find, if you can't convince him that his character would do something that, he's not a fool. Mark Hamill knows the way Luke Skywalker has been portrayed. He's portrayed the character 3 times. 3 and a third. What was it? What would you say that the Force Awakens was? 0.0001%, whatever. But he knows how to portray Luke Skywalker. We knew what we were going to get with Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy. And then Ryan Johnson, it's the air of, arrogance that he has to just think that he could take the character and do something with it that he knows better than the rest of the Star Wars fandom. He knows better than Mark Hamill, who played the character in 3 movies. He knows better than the fans that saw the story arc of Luke Skywalker from farm boy to Jedi Knight. Now he's a crusty old recluse and doesn't want anything to do with the Jedi, and then Yoda has to slap some sense into him, and then Yoda can call down fire from heaven, and and Yoda wants him to burn the books, even though he knew that the books were already saved. It's just convoluted as all get out. I feel bad because, in a sense, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed parts of the movie, but this is one of those areas where prequel haters love to take the prequel Star Wars films, take the original versions and make their own movie out of it. And I think basically you could make a good movie out of The Last Jedi if you cut a lot of stuff out and try to rearrange some of it so that it makes it look a little better than it really is. Probably some of it still won't make any sense. Like, you'll have, you know, Luke Skywalker coming back with the original lightsaber looking 20 years younger, and you still can't make sense out of that if you want to try to like cut it so that maybe he actually left Octu. Is that what they call that island? It's supposed to be like a play on Act 2. Isn't that cute? Anyway, so this is his third quote that comment that he left on my video. Revenge of the Sith has an epic, coherent story filled with depth, heart, emotion, amazing battles, and the best and most lightsaber battles. The Jedi Purge, Order 66, for example, is packed with such heartfelt emotion. Also, the Palpatine manipulated Anakin to turn to the dark side by using Anakin's own wife is great storytelling at its best. The plot makes perfect sense. The Last Jedi had none of these qualities. Again, agreed. I really love the way the Revenge of the Sith came together. That was a really great movie that I don't think anybody really has any grounds to complain about. A lot of people would like to complain about that movie. They find it very hard. I find them grasping at straws when they complain about General Grievous. Come on, you're gonna complain about General Grievous? You're gonna tell me that Captain Phasma is a great character, and you're gonna tell me, Boba Fett was great and this and that, which Boba Fett was great, but General Grievous, you're gonna complain about him. He was a henchman. He was supposed to be a henchman. He had more depth to his character than probably all the other, henchman side characters in the saga altogether. You want to talk about, Greedo and just think of all those side characters, those henchmen you had. None of them really had the level of menace and capability about them that General Grievous had. And of course, they always like pick on, well, you know, uh, Anakin turns to the dark side, and there wasn't enough build up for it. Fool, we had 10 years worth of build up of the Clone Wars. I mean, how long did the Clone Wars last? That Clone Wars is really what put the pressure on Anakin all that time, all those years of trying to master the light side of the Force, especially after his incident with the Sand People and stuff. That was a he had all along. That wasn't something he just decided to turn to the dark side. And I think Lucas captured it very well because you get to see how Anakin's almost ashamed that he wants more than the Jedi are willing to give him. He wants more out of the Force than they're willing to teach him. And I think that was captured very well in that conversation he has with Padme when he says, there are things about the Force they're not telling me. I want more, but I know I shouldn't. It's all there in the movie. I don't see why anybody has a problem with it. I think George Lucas even said that friends were telling him, "Oh, you should have a friend of Anakin's die," and he gets angry, and that's why he wants to turn to the dark side. See, it's not that simple. Don't be an idiot. It's not that simple. It's not just, "Oh, I'm mad now. I want to turn to the dark side." There are so many layers to Anakin's turn. You could write a book about how many levels there was to it. There was the dark side that was manifest in him from killing the Tusken Raiders. There was the desire not to lose Padme the way he lost his mother. There was the desire of ambition to be greater than any Jedi ever dreamed, to use his own words, but to be the greatest Jedi ever. That's sort of where you find all these areas coming together in, you know, in one moment in time. All that stuff came together to create the Darth Vader we know. A lot of people also want to complain, well, Padme's death, Padme's death. Padme's death was a necessary evil because you have to understand, Padme was too important of a character to die off screen. And they're like, oh, well, she died of a broken heart. Well, you couldn't really have Anakin killing her and then expecting to feel something for this character. That's sort of the same way we're kind of having with Kylo Ren, which, we have to kind of make him the Black Hat villain now because after he killed Han Solo, ain't nobody going to root for him to come back to the good side. So sort of the same thing happened with Anakin. You couldn't have Anakin kill Padme, and who else is going to kill Padme? If Palpatine had killed her, he would know about it in the Force. Vader, he would have felt it. So it couldn't have been Palpatine, and then because then he would have gone against Palpatine much earlier than he does. So anyway, yeah, Revenge of the Sith, great, great movie, and as I said, you had to have Padme, die in that fashion on her own account, on her own terms, so to speak. Because if you had her survive that movie and then die somewhere in between movies without ever being shown, it would have been because at that time we didn't know that there was going to be the Lucasfilm versions of these spin-offs and stuff. You could have had a Padme spin-off, I suppose, but I don't see how you would do that anyway, because I don't know if Natalie Portman would have came back. She seems to me to be done with Star Wars. I don't think she's coming back to Star Wars anytime soon. Ewan McGregor would come back, I think, in a heartbeat. I think you could probably convince Hayden Christensen to come back. I don't know if he would be as up for it as I know Ewan McGregor is, but I think Natalie Portman would be the one most reluctant to come back because she has sort of a career independent of Star Wars. I'm not saying that the others, of course, don't, but she doesn't seem to be all that willing to return. So once again, thank you, Remote Prophecy Productions, for your comment. It is much appreciated. And like I said, check out that video. It happens to be a popular one, especially now with The Last Jedi coming out. You're going to see a lot more people showing an appreciation for the prequels. I think that's for sure. That is my in defense of George Lucas and the prequels video. You can find that on my Torch's Soapbox rant uh, playlist on my YouTube channel. Okay, and finally we've got Bamboo Bamboo Bamboo, a longtime friend of the show. He tuned in for the last Torch News Roundup. Thank you, Bamboo. He's always been a friend of the show. And he says, nice video as usual. Thank you. I didn't know about the Animaniacs reboot, so thanks for putting that on my radar. Well, that's what I'm here for. I gotta give you the news, and that's including all the things that I enjoy, which is not only superhero and sci-fi related, but stuff like the Animaniacs and so forth. It sounds really cool, but of course I'm a little anxious as well. I just might have to add Hulu to my streaming service list to check it out. Yeah, I know. I think there's a like free 2 weeks uh, plan on Hulu. I might check it out then once it comes out because I know I still haven't seen too much of Star Trek Discovery. I've seen the first 2 episodes or whatever it was when it was on CBS, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly when this is coming out. It's a 2-season order, so it should be uh, probably some time before it comes out. Uh, on the subject of reboots, have you watched the new Ducktales? I think it's actually pretty good. Actually, no, I haven't seen the new Ducktales reboot. I feel bad because uh, I really liked that show originally, and I liked all the Carl Barks uh, uh, comics back in the day the Uncle Scrooge comics that the Ducktales were actually based on. And I haven't got a chance to see it. I think it's on Disney XD. It has a great looking art style because it looks kind of like the Carl Barks version from the comics. And it also looks like they got Donald Duck more involved, which of course I'm a big fan of Donald Duck. So that was kind of what I just was disappointed about with the original DuckTales back when I was a kid was, they kind of wrote him out of the stories. It was just, they kind of brought in Launchpad McQuack as sort of the de facto slightly stupider Donald, which nothing against Launchpad, but I mean, I liked Donald Duck, but they kind of felt like I guess he was like a star character, and you put him in, it's going to take a lot of the focus off of Uncle Scrooge and the nephews. But no, I would like to see Ducktales whenever I can get a chance. I'm so far behind with all these shows. I still haven't seen Rebels. I'm still waiting to get caught up on Rebels, and I'm sure that On Demand isn't showing them anymore because I waited too long. I might have to see that when it comes out on Blu-ray or something. The Rebels season, the season. What is it now? Season 4? I think it's season 4. Yeah, I haven't caught up with it because I got so many things to watch. As a matter of fact, when I'm done with this video, I got to start watching the shows that I've missed: Supergirl, Flash, Black Lightning. Tomorrow is Arrow, and this Friday, not only Agents of Shield, but we have the Michael Day Barr uh, return to MacGyver, where he's playing Murdoch, Murdoch Senior, or the original Murdoch. I don't think he's going to be related to the David Del Masterson version because remember, David Del Masterson, I think, took the name of Murdoch, but the original Murdoch will always be Michael Day Barr. All right, so thank you for joining us once again, and of course, thank you for all your comments. And be sure to leave a comment in the comment section below. And let me know what you think about this week's Torch News Roundup. We try to do them every Wednesday, if possible, sometimes Monday, depending on how much news is out. But look for them Mondays and Wednesdays, and you'll probably find one. Sometimes I save them for Saturday when I do my This Week in Comic Book Television. So be sure to check those out on Saturday. We have those every week, as long as there is comic book television on. During the off season, I'm sure we'll find something else to do. Probably just the Torch News Roundup. But that's what we say as our tagline, our new tagline. The only way to spend your Saturday here with Johnny Torch. Okay, so make sure you check the link in the description below where you will find The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye, my comic book, which of course you can get the digital download for only 99 cents for issues 2, 3, and 4. 99 cents each. The first issue will be $1.40, I believe. $1.40, 49, something like that. I set the price for that 6 years ago, so I don't remember what I set it for, but it's a long full page. It's a long story, a full story, so that's the reason why that one's a little bit longer. The other stories are serialized, and that's why you have to pick them up individually, and that's why the first issue is a little more expensive. All right, also check out my Twitter page. You'll see all the craziness and hijinks that I get into and controversial subjects that I broach. And we will see you next week with more news, all the news that's fit for me and you, here on Johnnie Torch Live. This is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.